Hello, everyone. This is Molly from the Casually Molly podcast, and I just wanted to introduce you to my friends at the Natty Cat. This one is for you cool cats and kittens who can't get enough of wordplay and fur babies. The Natty Cat's natural soy candles feature inventive scent combinations in glass jars with clever kitties on the labels. Hand-purred with locally sourced natural soy wax, the Natty Cat's candles wood wicks create a cozy fireside crackling sound, perfect for curling up on the couch. Remember, for all of your candle and scented oil needs, please visit our friends at the Natty Cat either on Facebook or Instagram.
Have you ever wanted to get your shit together? Scrap it, look through the lens and capture it. But first world problems are getting you down. Disabled, salty, needing a laugh to fix that frown. Well, you can do all those things and so much more. Just grab a seat in the chair or the floor. Sit back, relax, recline. Well, she drops another casual line. You're tuned into Casually Molly with Molly and Bergie.
Thank you for tuning in to the Casually Molly podcast. I am your host, Molly Ambergy. Remember that you can casually subscribe wherever you have your audio streaming services, or you can watch our faces on YouTube and Facebook Watch. But now that we got all the promotion out of the way, it's time to talk about the real highlight of this episode, which is the New York-based comedian Stephon Hightower. Everybody give it up. The crowd's going wild. Hey, Stephon, I am so happy that we were able... Hey, like I said, you look great. I'm so happy for you. You just look really happy. Are you just like living your life up there in New York? What's going on?
I am living it, man. I'm really enjoying myself. I'm in a good space mentally. I feel good about life. I feel good about myself, you know?
Yes, I can see, I know that we're not together in person, but I can just see it in your smile. I feel it in your energy right now. To give a background about Stephon, I had the pleasure of knowing you when I first started doing comedy here in St. Louis, and you were awesome. You were always really good to me, and I really appreciated you always being kind to me. So thank you very much for a new comic being kind and welcoming me in. But yeah, now after doing all the awesome material you've been doing, you decided to move out to New York City. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that transition? How's that been going?
Oh man, it's been good the last, let me see. I've been here for like a little bit over a year now. I moved here last June. My first few months was rough, man. I'm not gonna lie to you, man. Like I first moved up here and it was weird because, like, my first apartment was in New Jersey.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And I was only there for, like, 30 minutes.
Oh. Gotcha.
So it was crazy. So I had found this place on Craigslist, and it was, like, $4.50 a month. And I was like, okay, cool. And I was like, oh, that's for New York or the East Coast. And I'm like, oh, that's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, I had an apartment in St. Louis that's $4.50 a month. It was like a whole apartment. I was like, okay, I can manage that. That's what I was thinking, right? Came here, got me a job. I got off the plane, man, and I got to my apartment, yo. And it was they had 3 triple stack bunk beds in one room.
Oh my God.
So it was basically like I would have been roommates with like 8 other guys, man. Oh, it was horrible.
It sounds like a hostel, like when you travel like backpacking somewhere or something. That's what that sounds like to me. Yeah.
It was, but it was like in some guy's apartment, and he fucking squeezed. He made 3 triple stack bunk beds in one small ass fucking room.
Wow.
Oh my God! And I didn't even stay a whole hour. I'm telling you.
No. Where did you? So how did that move? Like how did you what I'm trying to say is how did you find an apartment so quickly?
So when I originally came to visit, I had rented out an Airbnb in the Bronx. Mm-hmm. And they had like rooms that was kind of like they was kind of hostel made. Cause they had like the difference was they had like a bunk bed in each room, so they had like 1 bunk bed in each room. So which is like you share a room. It was 3 bedrooms, and you share a room with somebody. So I was actually staying there when I was visiting. And so I just texted the guy, the manager, and I was like, "Yo, you got any room?" And then like he texted me like, "Yeah, come on." And I was like, oh, thank God. So like I left like 30 minutes left, but I had like an argument, a debate with the dude in Jersey because he didn't want to get me back.
Oh no.
And
I think we're losing him a little bit.
I ain't even. Oh, can you hear?
I think that we're losing you a little bit. Let me see here. This happens.
1 second. Let me try to move. Oh, it's not me? I was going to move to another point because maybe it was me. Maybe another part of the house. Maybe it's not.
I think it's just your connection. Should we have him switch to data, Chris, or? Yeah, if it's possible to get on data, Stephon, it may help.
Oh, I'm moving to like another section of the house that has better reception. Give me 1 second.
Okay, we can try that too. Whichever one works.
I got you. Yeah, so let's do this. Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you.
And hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, cool.
Actually, you sound super clear, so there you go.
Yep, I just had to move to a better section of the house. Okay, cool.
So basically, picking up, you got in a fight with the guy. What happened there?
Yeah, so it didn't. So he was debating me about my money. He was like, yeah, you know, it's no refunds, $450 cash, and then he like had a dry erase board on top of the refrigerator that said no refunds. And I was like, dude, I can erase that shit. Like, nigga, that's not real. I'm like, bro, like I haven't been in New York in an hour or New Jersey, whatever. I always think New Jersey and New York are the same. It's like East St. Louis and St. Louis, right? So I'm like, bro, I haven't even been here a whole hour. I haven't slept, took a nap, took a shit, ate anything. You know what I mean? Like,
yes.
Dude, and then like my bunk bed was like at the bottom. It was like on the floor. Like every time I leave the house, I probably take my laptop with me. Like, who wants to? I can't bring no girl over here. Like, this sucks, bro. And then so he argued with me for like 30 minutes, and I was like, listen, bro, I just got here. I have nothing to lose. I know where you live. You don't know anything about me, bro. I'm gonna need that money back. And then I was like, yo, you know what? Since I wasted your time, I gave you $450 already. I'm like, just keep 50 and just give me 400. Like, it keeps, but you're not finna just take my whole 450. And I just got here, and this room fucking sucks. Like, I'm like, this is not how it's advertised on Craigslist. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, at this point, I probably can call Reggie, and we can pull up. We probably can like jump you if we wanted to. Like, dude, I need my money, you know?
Yeah, right.
You know? And so, like, after a while, he looked at me. He was like, okay, let's go to ATM. Let's get your money. Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
then
thank you.
I got my money, then I left. It was crazy. And so, look, the room is so small. It's like right next to the kitchen, right? And he goes, oh, man, I was going to use that money to call an exterminator. Yeah, the kitchen has roaches, but you don't have to worry because there's none in the room. I'm like, when in life have you ever heard of a roach just stop in my room? Like,
that's wild. Oh my God.
Have you ever seen the roaches look around the corner like, no, I'm not gonna go in there? Like, no, they're going. Like, no, you've never seen that in my life. Like, you know what I'm saying? I grew up part of some of the projects. Like, roaches was all over. Like, no.
Oh my God, that is. Well, I'm happy that like you actually found a place, and now, in our current state with the pandemic, are you staying at Reggie's place while Reggie's over here in St. Louis? Is that correct? Okay, very cool. All right.
He must have told you about it already.
Yes. Well, so he was on, Reggie Edwards, another great comedian from St. Louis that moved to New York City, for just to give a background. He was on here a few weeks ago because he was like, do you know Stephon Hightower? And I was like, yes. And he's like, well, he helped me out because he's staying at my place while I'm here in St. Louis. But I was going to say, like, what's happening with the comedy scene in New York City right now? Like, what's going on? I see you performing on a lot of rooftops because I have a few people who came on from New York that are doing all the rooftop shows.
So there's been rooftop shows. People having shows like in their backyards, on street corners. in basements.
Mm-hmm.
It's been really fun.
Yeah, it looks like an awesome time. So
And so like for me, I've looked at it as like the glass being half full, because a lot of people who wouldn't have seen me so fast are seeing me now because the city being shut down.
mm-hmm.
So a lot of people are on the same playing field.
Oh,
So like,
interesting.
because when the city was open, you have to work your way up to the clubs and get to know people.
Yeah.
But now everybody's outside. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So people who like seen me when I first moved here are seeing me like, oh, okay, you funny, like, yeah. So like for me, it's like, yeah, I'm kind of taking advantage of being seen sooner than later.
Yes.
So it's been pretty good for somebody like me.
Mm-hmm.
At first I was like, hey, glass happening. I'm like, damn. But then when I really thought about it, I'm like, hold on, wait. These people are seeing me who wouldn't have seen me yet. So it's been good.
Good. I'm really happy to hear that. Like I said, I always thought of you as a very talented comedian.
Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, of course. You're so very welcome. And I'm a complimentary person, but I seriously do. I admire, I'm a nice person. What can I say? But what I wanted to kind of focus on too is, you are in New York City, but how did we get there? Like, what was kind of the start for you deciding to do comedy? Because now obviously you're like dedicating your life to it. But when I guess what I'm asking is, when was the moment where you were like, this is something I want to do, this is something I want to try?
Okay, so it's like, man, it's so much backstory to it. So my original thought when I knew I wanted to do comedy, when I was in 8th grade, and like I sing a little bit, I was in drama class, and I was in band, and I was a big fan of Jamie Foxx growing up. And I was like, man, if he can sing, act, and be funny, I can try it too. And so that's when I originally had the original thought in 8th grade. And then I actually wrote my very first joke when I was a junior in high school.
Okay.
And so I wrote my first joke. I had like a joke book. And so when I was like 22, 23, me and my mom was in my auntie's driveway talking, and her birthday's in like September. And she goes, you know what I want for my birthday? She was like, I want you to get on stage like you always talked about. And then she looks at her watch. She goes, today's Tuesday. Open mic night at the Funny Bone. Let's go. So I'm like, okay. So I went in the house. I grabbed my notebook. Now, mind you, like when I used to get in trouble in school, my mom used to actually take me to the Funny Bone to see. She was like, if you could be a class clown in school, you can come get on stage. My mom used to like bring me to the Funny Bone when I was too young.
Nice.
Yeah, and so she took me to the Funny Bone, and this was like in 2012. Yeah, this is 2012. I went up, I was nervous as hell, did a set. I actually did, my first time was actually kind of okay, because like I was getting laughs.
Good.
And like I told my first joke, and like nobody laughed, and I said something else, and it was like I had a good set, right? And so it's a funny story, right? After the show, my mom had half the recording. And I was like, why you only had half of it? She goes, oh, because I thought you was going to get up there and choke. She said, I thought you was just talking. So when you finally got up there and you was doing good, I was like, oh, shit, let me pull out my camera.
He's actually doing a good job. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's so crazy. Like, we was on our way home. She said, oh, my God, you need a manager. You need an agent. I was like, Mama, slow down. I was like, yo. I barely got fucking 3 minutes. Slow down, I guess she saw it before I did, she saw it.
She was ready. She was gonna be the momager. She's like, I'm gonna figure this out.
So this craziest thing happened, right? That same weekend, the Funny Bone open mic is on Tuesday.
Yeah.
I had already went on an interview for the casino to work at the casino, and so that next day I had got a call back to come to the casino. I got hired at the casino that Friday. So I started working overnights. And so, you can't do comedy when you work overnights. You know how that is.
Yeah.
So, like, my shifts was like 7 at night to 3 in the morning, 8 at night, 4 in the morning, 9 at night, 5 in the morning. You know how it is.
Yes.
And it just so happens that one of my supervisors was at the open mic night the night I did it. And she was like, oh, my God, I remember you. You're a comedian. You are so funny. Oh, my God. And I was just like, wow, that was my first time. Like, that was crazy.
You were recognized. Yes. I love that.
Real talk. She was walking around telling everybody I was a comic. I only been on stage one time, so I really wasn't embracing it like that.
Right.
A year ago passed. A whole year go past where I hadn't been on stage since my first time being on stage. I was also into acting though. Like I was going to this place called Images Acting, where I was one of their actors or whatever. I was like going on auditions and stuff, and I won a scholarship to go to their school. Right?
Oh wow, that's amazing! Congratulations! Yeah.
Thank you. So I was getting acting classes, auditions or whatever, and so I was at work one day, and one of my coworkers walks up to me and goes, "Hey Stephon, I seen an audition for a play on the wall somewhere. You should audition." He had a paper, he handed it to me. He goes, "You should audition." I was like, "Okay, cool, bro." The next day I went out and auditioned. I got the part. And so at one of the rehearsals, one of the girls was like, "I'm in a comedy competition with this lady named Miss Woody. And I was like, "Oh, really?" I was like, "Yo, I've been on stage once. I'm like, I want to get back into comedy. Like, I really want to do stand up." And so she gives me Miss Woody's number. Me and Miss Woody connect. We meet each other. And like a week later at work, somebody wanted to switch shifts with me. And so I went from working 7 at night to 3 in the morning. And my shift ended up being 11 in the morning to 4 p.m. in the afternoon on this particular day, which is crazy, where like some stuff, I be feeling like some stuff meant to be.
Yeah.
So we switched. And on the day I get off work at like 4. The girl, so Miss Woody texts me. She goes, "Hey, we're having a Dick Gregory tribute at the Ambassador. You should come down. It's at 7. I'm like, "Okay, cool." I'm like, "Oh, that's what's up." I usually have to go in at 7, right? I go in. They have like a Dick Gregory statue, a Dick Gregory painting. It's a lot of old people there because it's Dick Gregory, you know.
Yeah.
It's me, Miss Woody, and this comedian named Brandon Cushan from Grand Rapids. I guess they was there. He was there for like Miss Woody comedy competition. So he introduces us, goes, "Oh, those 2 young comedians." We sit down. Dick Gregory gives like a 45-minute speech. And then like at the 45-minute mark, he goes, "Oh, those 2 young comedians I met earlier still in the audience?" I raise my hand. I'm like, "Yeah, we in the back." He goes, "Y'all come on stage right quick." We walk on stage, didn't think nothing of it. We get on stage, and he hands over the mic like, "Here, y'all do a set." I was like, "What?"
Oh my God. So like, let me ask you this. Like, did it go as well as your first time at the Funny Bone?
You know what? It didn't go bad, man. And you know what's so
Good.
crazy? Like, I was hella super nervous. So I looked at Brandon like, "Yo, I didn't know the rules that the youngest comic go first." I just like, I'm nervous. Like, "Yo, you been doing it 10 years. So you go." And so Brandon went, Miss Woody went, and then I went. And Dick Gregory didn't leave the stage. Like, Dick Gregory grabbed the chair and sat on stage with his legs crossed and watched our sets.
Wow. Oh my gosh.
And so I was nervous. I ain't never been so nervous in my life. So I did like my little 5-7 minutes or whatever. I got little chuckles. I'm not gonna say I killed. It was like little chuckles or whatever.
That's okay. Yeah.
And so it was over with. The girl gives all 3 of us his card or whatever. And like I've been doing comedy ever since that day. Like that was my spark. And so that was like in 2013.
No, I love that.
So even though like my mama originally asked me to get on stage, I count the day Dick Gregory asked me to get on stage as my starting point.
So how long have you been doing it now?
So 7 years now.
Okay.
If you count the day that Dick Gregory asked me to get on stage, it's been 7 years.
I'm so excited for you. Like, that's what I'm saying. It's I love the fact that you went with your mom, though. She sounds like a total riot. Like, I love that she's like, if you can be this funny, because I understand being like having a loud personality. My mom had put me in theater, so I was a theater major. It was like a good fit for me as well. So it's always funny when your mom notices those things even before you notice them. So shout out to Stephon's mom for noticing this before he did. Now so that's the thing. You know, I was about to say, like, now that you're in New York City, is there anything you kind of miss about St. Louis, or do you consider kind of New York just your base now? You haven't like looked back?
I mean, what I miss about St. Louis is like, if people want to book somebody, like I'll be a name that they would instantly hit up, like, you know what I'm saying? So in New York, I'm still kind of new. Yeah. And so people still starting to get to know me a little bit. So I might not be the go-to guy. I just miss being the go-to guy, man. And I like, because you get more stage time when more people know you. And so sometimes I go somewhere and I just be like, And so some people up here suck, and when I be seeing somebody suck on stage, I be like, oh,
Oh, yeah. That's okay though. But you know what? What's really kind of cool is I got to see you come back to the Funny Bone, I believe, and correct me if I do the wrong title for you, but weren't you hosting for Rachel Feinstein the last time I saw you?
Yes. That was in February.
Yes, and I was before everything shut down. It was very cool to see you move to a different city, but then you came back and represented your home. I mean, I've always admired Rachel Feinstein. I love her comedy, so I wanted to see her. And then somebody was like, "Miles, did you know that Stephon was going to be hosting?" And I only talked to her just for a brief second because when you're walking outside, and I just was like, "Hey, like, great job," and she was very nice. And I was like, "Oh, I actually like knew Stephon, and I wanted to see him too. He's really great." And she's like, "Oh, I love Stephon." So it's like the fact that you're making like a good impact on that, which is great. I mean, it was great to see her, but it was also really cool to like see you grow as a comedian and work with names like Rachel Feinstein. How's that been for you? Kind of having that transition. Obviously, you've worked with big names too while you were here at the Funny Bone and other local clubs, but it is very cool to kind of like see you come back to your hometown. How did that feel for your family after hearing that hysterical, see, there they are right now. This is why I love Chris Denman for finding all the cool photos, but that was the best. That was, like I said, one of my most memorable shows that I got to see. It was such a good time. So how did it feel coming back home and having that experience to share with your family who can't necessarily see you in New York doing that?
Man, it was fun, yo. It was fun. Like, I missed it. Like, it made me like, I miss St. Louis. It was like love. And that was my first time like being back in St. Louis. Mm-hmm. And you know what I'm saying? I came for like a weekend. It felt good. I'm like, oh, this is what real professional comedians do. So it felt good. Yeah. And Rachel Feinstein is great. Like, she paid me like a little extra when I after the week's over. She was like, here you go. And she gave me like some extra cash. She was like, if you're in New York, make sure you say hi. I actually seen her once in New York. I seen her at the stand or whatever. Yeah. And I spoke to her. We spoke briefly, but yeah, it was cool.
Yeah, she was, like I said, again, being a woman in comedy, it's nice to see. And I love her jokes about her mom because I like relate to the jokes. I'm sure a lot of people say that, but I feel like I have a very similar relationship with my mom, like she talks about in her jokes. So I was like, I got to see it. So it was just cool to like see you be a part of that and like see you like I mean, I guess like this is me too, but I love seeing people succeed. So I was like, yeah, Stephon, get up there and host this show. Like, it's good to see you. And like I said, I can't see you over at a different club and whatnot in New York as much, but I a couple of years ago I went to New York to do some shows, and it's such a cool scene up there. Obviously, like, again, there's things that have been shut down at this time, but what I really love what everybody's doing is doing shows in cool areas of, like you said, like the rooftops and in backyards. So I know we're kind of going back to that, but is there any show recently that's been kind of, even though it was maybe out of the element of what a usual club show might be, was there one that you've had that's been your favorite thus far? And like, were there any like memorable people that you worked with? Even or people you just connected with that you became, like, you're like, this is a great venue. I love working here now. Maybe I'll do this in the future.
It's this place called the Tiny Cupboard in Brooklyn.
What's so funny is I see that Amanda Gale, I don't know if you've met her. She's in New York and she does a lot of stuff over at the Tiny Cupboard too. So I see a lot of pictures from over there. But yeah, what's that venue like?
The Tiny Cupboard is so cool, man. It's on the rooftop. Mm-hmm. It's actually ran by this girl named Mallory Bryant. Okay. And I actually met her through Reggie when I first moved to New York. Mm-hmm. And me and her actually, like, I went to, so she seen me. So somebody canceled out on the show one day, and they called me to replace them. And she seen me. And then she seen me like a week before she booked me at another location. And then we was talking, and she was like, oh my God, I didn't realize you and Reggie were like brothers, like best friends like that. I was like, yeah, that's my boy. And so we bonded, and so she booked me, and this was like 2 weekends ago, and Molly, I killed it, right? Yes. And so it was packed. and like I said, I was also on there with, like, when you do shows like that, you're doing shows with people with credits. Like, they probably been on stuff already. And then it was one guy named Andrew Andre Kim, Asian guy, and so he's like a touring comic, or whatever. And so that was his first time seeing me, but he seen me around. We always been cordial, but I just remember I didn't know he was there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I go downstairs about to leave, and he's sitting inside on the chair. He goes, "Bro, you were amazing. You're fucking hilarious." And I was like, "Oh, that's dope." Like, you know what I'm saying? Because he's never seen me before, so I like moments like that. Like, it's great when like people see you around, but then when they finally see you perform, like they like you as a person, but when they see you perform, they like, okay, he is funny. So that makes people like fuck with you more.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And you deserve it. Like I remember, were always like one of the hardest workers here. You were like doing shows every weekend. Like I was like, when is this guy going to move to New York or LA? So when you're like, I'm moving, I was like, and it's funny too that you like when Reggie had said that you guys were friends, when I first met Reggie, I actually had asked somebody, I was like, oh, is he related to Stephon Hightower? And they were like, no, they're just friends. And I was like, oh, well, maybe they could be. So I wasn't entirely wrong. You guys are very close. So that's great.
That's my best friend. Yo, I mean, we tell people we're brothers, so it's whatever.
That's right. I know Reggie was down with it. He's like, oh, that's fine. I'm not worried about it. It's always just somebody sassy. I'm just like, all right, was trying to be positive, but it's okay. Yeah. But like I said, I'm just really happy for you. That sounds really awesome.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, speaking of, there's the brothers right now. Look at you guys. Where was this picture, Stephon?
I can't even see it.
There's
wow, I haven't seen. We're at this venue called the Knitting Factory in Brooklyn.
Yeah, very cool.
Yes.
I was about to say, Brooklyn is one of my favorite parts of New York. When I was up there, I went and stayed with a friend of mine because he was in theater. We went to college together. And then when I was doing some shows, I went to go obviously do some sightseeing during the day, which what I love about New York, Stephon, that I kind of wish was a little bit more here, and I happen to live in downtown St. Louis, so I get a little bit more exposure to it. I do love that you can just like walk anywhere or like take the subway and things. Has that been kind of easy for you to commute around New York, or is it harder? And that's just my opinion from when I was over there, but I want to know what you're thinking.
I mean, they metro system is better than ours because they come more frequently.
Yeah.
Like, the bus stop right outside my house, it's like the bus comes like every 10 minutes.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, exactly.
And then the trains, depending on what time it is, come like every 10, 15. But because of the COVID, the train system is actually different now. Like, they stopped running they used to be 24 hours.
Yeah.
Now the trains stopped running at 1 a.m.
Gotcha. That makes sense.
And they just did a brand new shutdown. So all the restaurants and bars are now closing at 10.
Yeah, we have, I don't know if in St. Louis we have a curfew. I should probably know more, but I know where I'm from in Ohio, there's a curfew right now because my parents are like, yep, we got to be at home at 10. And I was like, what are you all doing?
I didn't know you were from, what part of Ohio are you from?
So I'm originally from Cincinnati. So not too different from St. Louis, but yep, I grew up in Cincinnati my whole life. And then I ended up just like moving here and then moving back here and staying here. So, but,
how old were you when you moved to St. Louis?
So I actually went to college here. So I went to SLU. So I was here when I was like 18, 19, you know.
Oh, and you then, were smarty pants. Okay.
I wish. No, I was a theater and journalism major. And then I kind of like I went back to Cincinnati for a while. I traveled around a little bit because I was doing theater. So I was producing plays. So I produced plays in the Midwest. I was in Chicago for a hot second. And then I moved back here in my late 20s because I was producing a play with the Fringe Festival. And then I was like, oh, you know, maybe I'll just stay. Like, no problem. And that's kind of where I started doing comedy was here. I was like, you know, I've always wanted to do it, you know, like I would always watch things on Netflix and then I would like run into people like Stephon Hightower that are just like, keep doing it. But I do have a funny story for you. You and I were in, I don't know if you remember this, but you and I were in the Funny Bone competition together and JB and you both wear glasses. And so at the time, so my friend saw you and she was like, oh, he's like hilarious. I got to go compliment him after this show. Like, he's fantastic. So she like runs out to the lobby. She sees JB just out far away with his glasses on. And she's like, Stephon, you were great. And JB was like, Bridget, it's me. It's JB. I am not Stephon. And because she knew JB as well. And she goes, oh my God, I got so excited. And like you didn't even miss a beat, Stephon. You happened to just walk right behind while this was all happening. So this whole moment just curates around. So she flips right around. She goes, Stephon, you were great. And you were like, oh, thank you. And like not even knowing what was happening, but we're all like crying. We're laughing so hard because JP was like, thank you, but I am not Stephon. And you didn't know what happened. So you're like, oh, thank you so much.
Oh, that's funny.
It was hilarious. So I was like, now I don't see with the glasses anymore. Is this a new look? Is this what we're expecting with Stephon now?
I'm rocking the contacts,
Same.
I'm rocking the contacts. I like to switch it up. I've actually worn contacts and glasses all throughout my life. I first started wearing contacts when I was like in 8th grade. And so, like, since 8th grade, I kind of like, I might wear my contacts for a couple of years, and then I might throw my glasses back on a few years. Like, I just always switch it up. But I think the contacts might be the permanent look, though,
Yes. I only wear glasses at night when I like take them out and I'm like folding laundry or whatever I'm doing at this point. Whatever is, passing the time of the pandemic, which speaking of, you're doing performances, you're doing a lot. But since when the lockdowns and stuff are happening, what are you doing to pass the time? Like, are you like writing more? Do you feel like, are you just kind of like taking this time for what it is? Like, what is Stephon Hightower doing to make this pandemic go a little bit faster?
Man, I've been doing a little bit of everything, man. I've been writing. I've been doing comedy more. I've been watching TV. Like, that's the biggest thing. Like, I barely really watch TV.
Yeah.
But, like, when the shutdown came, like, I was like, catching up on catching shows that, like, I was hearing about but never got a chance to watch.
Same.
Like, right now I'm watching Shameless.
Oh, I love that show. Great show. Yeah.
And it's like it has like 10 seasons, but I fucking love it. And I'm on the 3rd season right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I got a little busy, so I've been on the 3rd season for like a month and a half because I started getting busy. But Shameless, and I've just been watching a lot more TV than I didn't watch before.
Yeah, I feel that too. Because you haven't especially like when you're in New York, I bet you just really don't have the time to like sit down and watch TV because you're like, I got to go to this club. I got to go to this show. And then somebody's like, I got a guest set. So I got to jump on the subway and go here. Yeah. Like there just really isn't time to just like, especially in a career like comedy that you want to do full time. Like there's no time to sit and watch other people like pursuing their dreams on a reality show because you're in that reality. You're like running around and doing all this stuff. So I bet you, truly, that's how I feel too. Like people would always be like, oh, are you going to watch this show? And I'm like, oh, I'm podcasting tonight. So I won't be watching it, but you just fill me in. So I totally get it.
and what's so funny? I was actually like dating this girl before I moved to New York. And like it didn't work out because she just felt like I just wasn't making time for her on purpose. And I'm just like, you have no idea. Like New York is hard.
No.
New York is hard.
Well, because New York is hard. I mean, and I here's the thing. I love New York City. My mom's actually from Queens, New York. So I have kind of a special connection to it. I used to go, I had more family that was there at the time growing up. So I used to go actually a little bit more often when I was younger. So I kind of experienced it in different eyes versus like being a tourist. I had to like see what, living life there was like. But, what people don't necessarily talk about, like when I talk to other people, even when I was able to go abroad at one point, a lot of people are like, oh, America, obviously New York City and the Statue of Liberty. But especially when you're following, like it is like the city of dreams, but it's a different type of feeling because I know being a theater person, for all my 20s, I had to really commit to that, to like have the plays that I wanted produced or, be in the shows that I wanted to do. And, when you want to make something of yourself in New York, it can be hard. It is, I hate to use the word hustle, but it is a lot of hustle. And like you really have to be dedicated to it. And it's nothing personal to anybody else, but it is expensive and, it is time consuming at times, but I feel like, you really have to just be true. I hate to be like true to who you are, Stephon, but you are being true to like what you need to pursue. And it seems to be working,
Yes, where like, so like the long distance relationship stuff is hard, man. Like she's still her in St. Louis, and she just be like, yo, if you really wanted to talk to me, you would. And I just be like, oh, you have no idea.
No. I've been in a few long distance relationships myself, so I know how that one works.
Like, I was like, yo.
I am loving all these pictures. Like, this is just giving me life right now. Was this from when that festival that got canceled? The Fire Festival of St. Louis. Oh my God, that is the best thing. Oh my God, I totally forgot about that. Stephon, we have such a history with you. We just forgot about it for a second. You were such a star in St. Louis.
I was, right? I be trying to tell people in New York to book me. I was a star back home, but they don't care. They're like, that was St. Louis, whatever, kid.
That was just the Midwest, okay? Well, it's hard too when you move to a big pond. Oh, well, that was my next question too. So, like I said, love New York, so happy you're there. But what was the difference between rather than moving to LA? Why New York versus the West Coast or even Chicago, for instance? That's right near us.
Well, my main goal was to move somewhere where I would become a better comedian. LA, Chicago, Atlanta, New York, they were all options for me. And I kind of like, I had this thing where I was filling out job applications as well for all 4 cities. And I had just told myself, I was like, yo, whichever city calls me first for a job interview, that's where I'm moving. Mm-hmm. And New York emailed me for a job interview, and I was like, okay, that's where I'm moving.
Nice. Okay, great. Good for you, man. And now you've never looked back.
Yeah. So it could have been any city, honestly. And it's so crazy. New York is the hardest city out of all 4 options because this is the only place where I would have moved to where I really didn't have a set place to live. Mm-hmm. Like I have a mentor. I have a couple mentors in LA. They was like, yo, I got a place. I have friends in Atlanta that was like, yo, you can stay with me. I have family in Chicago where I could stay with. And it just was like, I guess the universe was like, no, we're going to make sure you have the hardest way out. And so New York it is, And plus New York always looking for people for work. So I guess that's just what it was.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I think that also challenged you more too, because like I have friends out in LA, I have friends in Chicago, and like that's so helpful when you go out there, because I went out to LA in February and it was great because I had those connections to like be with people. But I feel the same way you do, because when I went out to New York, I had my friend I stayed with, but he was mostly in theater, so I did theater stuff with him. But when it came to like going and, finding places to perform and like doing shows, and like you have to like really put yourself out there. So I think that, again, that like commends you, in New York, you really have to, there's thousands and thousands of people in New York, and anybody that's listening to this, whether they're from there or not, or have been there or not, can agree with that. So it's just like, and there's so many people you're competing around. So like I said, I know I've probably said this at least 5 times, but I do commend you for going out of your comfort zone and going in there. Yeah, of course.
It's been good for me, man. I needed to leave St. Louis. Like, I realized, like, for me, like, just me being away from home so long. I've never been away from St. Louis this long, you know what I'm saying? So it was good for me just to grow mentally as a person, just like, okay, this is life without, because I never went out for like to a university for college. I was at community college, so I never really left St. Louis like that. So this has been a good experience.
Yeah, and like I feel like too, like college was fine, but I do feel like even like I loved SLU, but I feel like when you're in college, you're still like in a confined space, like you're kind of in that artificial life where you're going to classes and you're doing things. But then once I got out and I had to like produce theater on my own, I was like, oh, I can't go to like my professor's office and be like, hey, I want this, this, and this done for this scene, and this needs to be built for this set. You have to do it all by yourself. And the same goes with your comedy career when you're in a new place where you're kind of like a small fish in a big pond versus, here in St. Louis, you were a big fish in a small pond, basically. Like, it's just a different environment. So you really have to, how many shows or mics would you say you would have done a day pre-pandemic?
Pre-pandemic? Easily 2 or 3.
Okay, see, that's when exactly. And you would just pop on them a day. Like, I feel like there's even comedians podcasts I listen to where they get to a point where they're just so famous, like they don't even have to go to a mic anymore. They just like go up on stage and they're just like, here I am. I'm just doing, if it's new material because of the name alone. And I mean, obviously I'm always impressed, but it's,
on a good day, you could probably do 4 or 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like, especially like on the week, like for me, I can't, like, on the week I work, so it's like I'm not going to do 4. But, like, on the weekends if I'm off, like, I can go to a mic at 12 in the afternoon and be performing all the way to maybe 7 or 9 at night. You know what I mean? So, easily, yes, definitely.
Do you get any sleep?
But, like, barely. Like, my sleep catches up to me a lot, man.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
Like, I was I was telling my ex, my girlfriend who I had, she would get mad at me because, listen to this, Molly, real talk. I had to get up and go to work at 5 o'clock, usually no later than 6 o'clock in the morning. I had to be at work. So I'm getting up at 5:30, going to work, getting off work, coming home, taking a shower, leaving back out the house, doing shows. By the time I get home, sometimes it'd be like 1 to 2 a.m. and I had to get up and go to work at 5. And my ex, she wanted me to call her when I got home, and it was just not happening, yo.
No.
And she was like, you know how much? She was like, when you was back in St. Louis, you made time for me. I'm like, yo, New York is 10, maybe 20 times busier, yo. I can do a set in St. Louis and walk outside and call you.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, in New York, it's not happening. Because especially being new here, she didn't understand, like, the networking is always happening. Like, you never not networking in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Like, anybody you run into could be doing something. Like, in St. Louis, there's so many people. Okay, so the difference is, like, in St. Louis, it might just be somebody regular. You meet an audience. But sometime in the audience in New York, people be broadcasters. People be working here, there. Like, people in New York always doing shit. Like, everything is networking.
Yes.
And so it was just like, you can't walk off and just call me for like, I'm like, oh, I need that time. Like, even just chilling and talking to comedians is networking.
Yeah. This is like something, Stephon, because I'm all about branding and networking. That's where that communications major comes in. Like, I completely understand. And people like get on me about that all the time. Like, what really annoys me, at least, and like maybe some people mean it in a protective way, like being like, hey, take care of yourself. But I don't like the idea when people are like, you need to slow down. And I'm like, you need to back up. Because literally, I am doing everything correct because that, like, especially even when you run this, like, we were friends before. So I was like, hey, Stephon, I had a cancellation. Pop on for me. Thanks. Like, obviously, you know, it worked out. But that, like, had I not like went and talked to you after a show or were like, hey, that is like the time, like you can't just, especially when you're in a career like this, you can't really just like perform and then go unless you're at a certain status. Like if, you know, like there are some people who are at a certain status so they're like, cool, all right, bye. I can like go back to my hotel room. But when you're kind of trying to figure, who to work with and not who to trust. I think that's like the wrong vernacular, but like you're trying to meet people in a big city and just saying hello and talking to somebody. I bet you they're like, oh, that's Stephon guy. He's like, he was great. He had good material. He spoke to me afterwards. I think you're being super professional personally. So
yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Well, you have to talk to people and you've got I feel like I told you, you and Reggie have like the best smiles. So I could see like the two of you guys being the best people to approach after a show.
Yeah, no. I realized that my smile is one of my better qualities. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes.
Okay, my smile makes me a little charming,
Yeah. You're so funny. I love that. But you know what? You need, especially in comedy, you have to have a good smile. Like, I do think that helps when you're like laughing along and laughing with the audience a little bit. I'm not saying you have to do it all the time. Smiles aren't everything, but it doesn't hurt. So good for you for embracing that quality.
That's a fact.
What I'll ask you before we get out of here is, like I said, it's been great talking to you. I'm happy to see that you're happy up in New York. You're thriving, even in this pandemic. You're like making it work. What advice?
Staying negative.
Hey, what advice would you give to people who are, especially now, I've been running the St. Louis independent comedy pages for Chris Sear now, and a lot of people message and they're like, what are opportunities? And it's hard to be like, there's a pandemic, so there's not like a ton of opportunities right now. And now we're on like lockdown here. So I'm probably not like the worst person to give advice right now of like where to go and what to do.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what's funny about that? So like, Chris Sear had the you talking about the St. Louis independent comedy, and he had the where he interviewed comics.
Yes.
And I've never been interviewed. And so like it was part of the pandemic. I hit up Chris. I was like, yo, you never interviewed me. Like out of all the people, you never had me. What is up with that? I was like, dude, you should interview me, man. He's like, I never interviewed you, really? I was like, no. I was like, everybody's been on there but me. And I was like, yeah, I don't want to take it personal, but come on.
Well,
and he goes, no, I gave it to Molly. I was like, oh, okay. I never yeah. And so I was like, okay, now that I see you got the pie, I was like, okay, Molly, I heard her working hard. She doing a little bit. She didn't move from Ohio and started to take over. Okay, Molly, I see you.
I know. I've been hustling here. When you met me, I was that lost comic that you were like, it's gonna be okay. Just like keep hanging in there. Now I'm like, Stephon, you finally got that interview that you always wanted from St. Louis independent comedy.
I was like, how come I never been on the website? That doesn't make any sense. I was like,
Now you're going to be on the website. You're going to be on the Instagram page. You're going to be on my Instagram page.
Word.
So you're going to be on all the platforms. And now I can share, now that you have finally had your chance in the sun in St. Louis, Missouri, what advice would you give to up-and-coming comedians who are waiting for their chance to be interviewed by St. Louis independent comedy?
I would just say just keep grinding and keep just getting on stage, man. Like comedy is really the one craft where it's like you learn by doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody can teach you. When I say nobody can teach, I'm not saying nobody can give you advice. What I'm saying is nobody can teach you. Like a lot of comedy is kind of like in you, you know what I'm saying? So nobody can actually teach you the stuff that like just the normal techniques you have to actually work on your own. Like when you on stage, record everything. I would say that.
Mm-hmm.
So like even if I don't have a video recording, I always voice record all my sets.
Yes.
So it's like I'll go back and I listen to all of that.
Mm-hmm.
Keep getting on stage. Be a good person. No need to be an asshole, a jerk. I mean, don't get it twisted. You have to be a little bit of ass to be a comedian because when you're on stage, you seem like an asshole. But that's just the comedian gene. But I'm just saying, as an off stage, be a cool person. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And just keep working hard because eventually, like the good things are gonna come if you work hard.
Yes, I love that. These are all, and also like. If you're me, I always hoard all of my voice like memos, like all my sets. Just make sure you listen to them because sometimes I'll record it and I'm like, I gotta listen to this. So I don't even mean to, but it just happens. I'm like, oh, that's right. I have all these recorded sets that I need to listen to. But Stephon, I really appreciate your time. This has been wonderful.
Wait, yeah. Is this Reggie? This might be Reggie.
What?
Let's see.
Guys, are we in suspense? This is the most casual episode. I said this last time, but now we're getting to the most casual episode yet. Who is it?
Nope, it wasn't.
Who's there? It wasn't? Oh my God, who was at the door? Nobody?
Oh. No, it was somebody. What's up, y'all?
Just some other people. Well, then he doesn't matter, so it's okay. Yeah. Only if it was Reggie. Well, that's all right. Send Reggie my best wishes.
I got you.
Yeah, he's the Beyonce to my Kelly, so you can just say that Molly, aka Kelly Rowland, says hello.
Okay, I got you.
But Stephon, why don't you tell us a little bit where we can follow you to support your comedy career? Like, where can we find social media? Do you have any shows or anything you want to promote? What's up?
Yo, make sure y'all follow me on my Instagram, Stephon _Hightower. STEPHON_Hightower. Same thing on Facebook. I'm getting back on Twitter. I kind of laid back off Twitter, but I'm getting back on it or whatever. Website gonna be up pretty soon, probably sometime next year. Still working on some stuff, but just keep up with me, man. And then I might be back home sometime soon to do shows. Shh. Don't tell nobody. Well, I'm just joking. Tell everyone. Pull up.
I was about to say that's on this podcast, so it's going to be shared.
Right.
But yeah, keep in touch. Let me know when you're coming in. And remember, for anybody else who has supported the episode today, remember to share Stephon, share all the information, and share this podcast. Remember, you can casually subscribe, again, to any audio or video, wherever you watch or listen to your podcast, will be casually available. Stephon, the last question I always ask people before they leave the interview is, what are you going to casually do now that our episode has ended?
I'm going to casually go back in my room and maybe watch Netflix. I don't know.
All right. Nice. Sounds like everybody during this pandemic. We're just going to go back to our room and watch some Netflix. Well, Stephon, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And the song you're going to hear next is Sorry, Not Sorry by Bates, local rap hip hop artist. Thank you very much.
Yo, thanks for having me, Molly. Chris, Damon, good seeing you, brother.
Yeah. What's understood don't even have to be explained, my nigga. Yeah. I love y'all. I love y'all. Yeah. Yeah. Sorry, not sorry.
Trying to find peace, been through a lot, guess I expected too much. A cruel world tells you your best is less and it's never enough. I think I lost a couple homies, cause they ain't acting the same. Unpacking my shame while standing in the dirt on my name. A soul bruised, being abused, I kept it quiet and sunk. Nobody heard me yell for help, but I screamed at the top of my lungs. Till it disappeared on a nigga, then Freaky called and hung up. Started to think that if I sink, my niggas won't give a fuck. Like where my niggas when I'm homeless and trying to crash for a night. Like what my niggas when I break down crying about losing my wife. The secret things the people never seen stacking up on me, and that was picked up by the ones some say was barely my homies. I guess I'm bothered by the fact that I had to leave all I own just to find peace, and that my homies will let me do it alone. I talk to niggas every day until I got with this woman. I'm blindsided by it all, cause I never saw the shit coming. Damn, that shit hurt, I don't know what's worse, the pain or the clear disregard. I want to weep, I want to scream, but nothing was heard but these walls. But I just left a lot of shit that never got a resolve. I love my niggas, so I'm still gonna be right there when they call. Wanna get God trying to get through to me. Mixed signals keep confusing me. They checking for your girl, but I ain't ready for them choosing me. This could've ended beautifully, could've went about it suitably, but soon you'll see the gruesome things you'll do to me, you'll ruin me. And everybody cool with it, I guess they say it's hard knocks. I lost the light inside my eyes. Yeah, I was in pure shock. Imagine everything you love cruising first, then hit a hard stop. I was angry, like the whole world could suck a dick. I'm talking all cops, like why I gotta lose it all again just to regain from the fall? Like why I gotta be the chosen one? Yes, I was mad at God, mad that I lost it all again, mad that I raised another kid, mad that my woman didn't love me, mad to go through all this shit, mad that I needed a place to stay, mad that nobody had shit to say, mad that my Christmas was some shit, mad that my homies was MIA. Thank you for truth, for giving me peace. Thank you for Kristen and GA. Thank you for Cornbread and Alan Gates. Thank you for Christian with a K. Thank you for everyone who listened and let me cry on